And blessed to be a part of your day. Kevin Miller in the morning, KIDO Talk Radio, and the KIDO Talk Radio app. And don't forget, tomorrow we're going to be at Independence Indoor Shooting, learning about gun safety, learning about how to protect yourself and your home, and, of course, firing weapons, proudly supporting the Second Amendment. Let's go to our friend Krista Huff, talk a little money news. Krista, good morning.
Hi, Kevin. How are you today?
Not bad. You're always an optimist. Your thoughts on the rocky road of the markets lately?
Okay, so the stock market, as reflected in the S&P 500, because I never look at the Dow, the S&P rose to brand new all-time highs in July. Hooray! Did you get that good news from the media? And then it had a pullback in August, not a crash, just a pullback, and now it's racing back to its all-time high. So I'm very happy, and the market is up approximately 32% since the Trump presidency began.
Well, what do you make of the China trade war? And people are saying, could be bad news on the horizon.
Well, I will tell you this. One of the industries that we think about when we think about the trade war is the apparel industry, right? So recently, last week and the prior week, apparel retailers did their quarterly conference calls to report second quarter results. And the general theme, because they all discussed China and tariffs, the general theme is that they're mostly not worried. They are actively mitigating the effect of tariffs, and they pretty much are acting like it's almost completely no big deal. And most of these companies have already been moving production out of China over a multi-year period, and they're planning to continue to do so. And they're spreading their production out over a dozen or more countries around the world. So if the bottom line is about consumer prices increasing, I can tell you from listening to the actual manufacturers that is not a big concern right now.
What about the agricultural folks?
Agriculture is a very, very different deal because there are lots of influences besides tariffs. For example, African swine fever has unfortunately decimated approximately half of the Chinese hog population and spread to many countries in that area. Over 200 million hogs have died just in the last year. So that's pretty scary. So you have that influencing ag prices, plus the trading around that. So I will tell you that there was a big spike in hog prices because the traders got ahead of themselves. And then in August, they all realized, we were way too early. So then they sold their hog futures, driving the prices way down. But that has to do with traders, not to do with tariffs or whatnot. And so there are many influences in each of the ag markets. I will tell you that the planting season looks like it's going to be bigger than usual this fall for things like corn and soybeans in the U.S. That is affecting prices because since it's coming in higher than anticipated, it's pushing prices down. But again, that isn't about China. That's about the bad weather in the first half of the year. So all in all, ag is doing what it always does, and I think things will even out.
Well, they should put you on CNBC more.
Okay, sign me up.
Yet, on the other hand, we have this issue with the media, that the media says, actually cheering for a recession. Right,
which is fairly crazy because there are so many super strong economic indicators. And occasionally we get like 1 month or 1 quarter of a number that's slightly weaker amidst dozens of really strong numbers. So I'll give you an example of a strong number. In July, there is a number that measures new business volume among leasing and financing. So let's say you're a business and you're financing some new tractors, right? That's what it's measuring. And the number rose 15% versus a year ago. There was $9.4 billion of new leasing and financing that took place in July. And it was much better than seasonal. Usually July goes down from June, but the seasonal decline was minimal versus normal. So if business is borrowing tons of money to continue, keeping everything rolling along, and we already know consumer confidence is high and the consumers are spending money, I'm really wondering what the general pundits are worried about when they keep saying that there's a recession on the horizon, because I don't see it, and this is my job.
Well, certainly. And let's just reinforce, Krista Huff is the expert. Kevin Miller is not here on KIDO Talk Radio. But what about, boy, I'm like devil's advocate boy here today.
Okay.
How about this issue involving the debt and the deficit of the country and debt services?
All right. The debt has been a problem for a very long time, and it's still a problem. And I am not an expert on telling you how we can solve the debt. But I know that if the government spends less money, that would be a great way to solve the debt problem, right? And so I'm a huge advocate on cutting back on all these charity things that we do. And I sort of hate the idea that the middle class, these are the people who are raising the children who are going to be the future of our country for the most part, right? But instead of throwing money towards them, right? I mean, if we're going to throw money towards anybody, you want to throw money towards the future of your country, in theory. Instead, we're throwing money towards people who are not citizens, people who came here illegally, people who are drugged out and producing 14 children. You know what I mean here, right? We're throwing money towards an unproductive area and encouraging people to continue those bad behaviors because we are rewarding it. So I don't personally see fixing government spending to be difficult in terms of imagining how to fix it. There's just political gridlock, and there is a certain political party that benefits from having all those people on welfare, and so they're going to, be intransigent on that topic.
What about consumer debt?
Consumer debt, that's going to depend on the way you look at it. I'll give you an example. There is a company called Ally Financial, and they loan money for cars and mortgages and such. And so just last week or a couple of weeks ago, they reported that their net charge-offs on their car loans have been falling for 6 straight months. So that means consumers are not only able to pay for their car loans, but they're improving their ability to pay their car loans every month. So the consumer, of course, is half of the entire economic equation, the other half being business. Although if you want to throw government in there, I suppose it's all like third. But the consumer is doing well right now. Employment is at record highs. Wages are rising. Consumer confidence, depending on which number you look at, is at the present situation index, as reported by the Consumer Confidence Board, is at a 19-year high. So the consumer's okay right now. And you know what? It's my job to pay attention. So I'm not putting a rosy spin on this. I'm just telling you exactly what the numbers are telling me. And when the numbers turn bad, I will tell you. And you know what? When the numbers turn bad, the media is all going to be like celebrating the big stock market, and right. I'll be the one throwing the wet blanket on everything.
Well, we've heard from you for years. We trust your guidance. One more attempt to be the wet blanket to your good news.
Okay, go for it.
The housing market here in Idaho, we're 1 or 2 in the nation. People coming in. Here's the most amazing thing, and I don't know if this is supply and demand or perception. A few years ago during the recession, we had homes valued once at $140,000. The median home value in Canyon County, Idaho, went from 140 to 70, cut in half. Those homes today are probably worth $250,000 because so many people are moving in, Krista, and we have a limited supply. But the perception versus demand is amazing. So could we see something that happened like with The Big Short in 2008 or 2009?
We can see housing prices fall, but this time it won't be for the same reason. That time it had everything to do with the government forcing Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac to loan money to people who were not qualified. So that was a disaster before it even happened, because the ultimate result, which a second grader could have predicted, would be that all these people who were unqualified would eventually be unable to pay their mortgages. And that was the first domino in the stream of dominoes that crashed the housing market, that then crashed the bond market, that then crashed the stock market. So it's normal for housing prices to surge and fall, as it is with literally anything else, stock market, corn prices, right? But the next cycle, I think, is going to have a lot to do with baby boomers selling their big houses and not enough younger people on hand to buy them. So the baby boomers are going to get stuck with houses that they're going to have to keep lowering prices on. So I would not be investing heavily in single-family home real estate right now.
Krista Huff, if people want to get a hold
Yes.
of you, get your newsletter where you get a lot of great information for an affordable price, how can they do that?
There is the Cabot Publishing is at cabotwealth.com. Cabot is spelled CABOT, and they can contact me at Krista at cabotwealth.com. Krista is spelled CRISTA.
Stay out of trouble.
Thank you. I will.
Thank you, Krista.
Bye-bye, Kevin.
Bye-bye. 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Next week, we will once again have our special program concerning the events of September 11th, the attacks on our great nation. And for those of you that have forgotten, we will play the event as it actually happened. You'll hear some of my firsthand reports of going into New York City 3 weeks after the attacks, the people there recovering. But coming up, as we learn more and more about that day, a shocking discovery that most Americans thought would happen that day concerning Flight 93. We'll tell you that story next. Plus, we got a lot going on here this morning. Before Glenn Beck, we would love for you to join the conversation. 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. K. Millie in the morning, Independence Indoor Shooting tomorrow. We're going to be there. Hope to see you. Come by, learn some safety tips, talk to the staff. And if you're new to the area, why not? Why not join the Independence Indoor Shooting and get a membership? By the way, Girls with Guns going really big. You can vote now. A lot of eclectic young ladies in that case. And if you go to my personal Facebook page, there's a couple things that I wanted to share with you. One, an excerpt from a book that has just gone out in honor of September 11th. You're going to have this book concerning what was going on that day. We're hearing more and more about what happened that day. And you remember Flight 93? That was the one that was flying over the Pentagon on its way into going to the White House, right? You remember that? Do you remember what was going on in your mind? You remember the movie? Remember Todd Beamer, Let's Roll, that sort of thing, right? Remember that? Well, apparently now, this just coming out, that they didn't have any missiles on those planes when they were trying to track down Flight 93. So you had pilots, now it's being declassified, saying, we were going to ram the plane. We were going to ram that plane. We may have to shoot down this aircraft. What the chaos aboard Flight 93 on 9/11 looked like to the White House, to the fighter pilots prepared to ram the cockpit, and to the passengers. The only plane in the sky, an oral history of 9/11. And that's coming out. We'll talk about it in a minute. First, Tea Party Bob joins us now. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio.
Great show, Kevin. Sorry, I'm down in Las Vegas today and heading to Arizona, but I want to say a couple of things.
Now, wait a minute. Before you get going, so you're in Las Vegas.
Right.
We have Liberty Linda in Utah. We have Terry collecting gemstones. Thankfully, we have Liberal Steve, but all of you people are leaving me.
Well, we're trying to spread the word and get out to rural America and let you know that things have not changed very much. You know, you can rewrite history, but you can't change it. And I think the problem we have is, again, going back to the educational system and the parents not really caring much about what's happening with their kids in school, and the schools have become the daycare centers of the country. If you don't keep an eye on what's going on with the people teaching your kids, you're not going to know what they're being taught. And remember, all of these problems are taking place in the colleges, and most of them have these kids who have actually been taught, hey, America's a bad place. So it comes back to the educational system. And I want to tell you something. I went down the other day, and you know I moved up to New Meadows for a reason. I think rural America is what's going to have to bring back the rest of America. And we did something the other day. The commissioners up in Adams County, and I testified during this meeting, they actually put a resolution together telling the federal government to go screw themselves when it comes to taking more land from us through this wilderness program.
Well, you can pass all your resolutions you want. When the tanks come in, what are you going to do? Throw a tomato at them?
I don't know. I think we can cut off all the roads with just 3 sticks of dynamite. We won't have to worry about it.
Well, he's just kidding, everybody. He's just kidding.
People need to really take a ride through places like Nevada. I mean, I drove through here yesterday, and I saw more damn cows and cowboys out there on the range. This is where it's still happening. This is where it's still good. You're not finding it in the urban areas, but America is still alive and well, and I think people need to understand that. And not enough people actually talk about it anymore. So,
well, that is our mission every day. Those of us that are staying in Idaho and not hanging out at the roulette wheel like you, and gosh knows what else you're doing there.
Well, I'm not a gambler anymore. I think you probably know that. But
they don't call that place Sin City for nothing. We don't need to lose you, and all of a sudden we're going to have to come down and get you. The Miller Militia will mobilize to save Tea Party Bob from the Sin City in Vegas.
Well, we're passing through here. We'll be in Arizona later this afternoon, and I think my job now is to kind of tell you what's going on out here in rural America, and maybe I can be your outlandish reporter that nobody will believe, but I'm going to be here anyway. I'll be here looking to see what's going on, and I do think I'm right about this. I do believe rural America is still alive and well. And,
yeah.
It's going to take a little while to change what's going on in the cities. They've been trying to huddle everybody into the cities by closing off jobs and closing off opportunities, in our smaller rural areas and our country towns. But it's going to come back, and it will come back with a vengeance. You can only turn the tide so much with lies. Eventually, people figure them out. Once they figure them out, the game is over. And I think the game is going to be over pretty soon. I mean, take a look at Joe Biden. Game's over for him.
Boy, you and Liberal Steve agreeing on that one.
Yeah, I think he's done. He's toast.
Wow. Tea Party Bob, be careful.
You too, my friend. You take care of yourself. Have a good day.
You as well. Boy, Tea Party Bob, publisher of the Gem State Patriot, on the road in Vegas. What will they think of next? 8:28 is our time. Kevin Miller in the morning, KIDO Talk Radio. And remember, the KIDO Talk Radio app, available now, Apple App Store, Google Play. You can take us anywhere, even in Las Vegas or Washington, D.C. or New Hampshire. Traffic and weather together. Let's get you to work safely and on time. KIDO Talk Radio traffic. Good morning, Dave. Hold on, Tiger. Kevin Miller in the morning, KIDO Talk Radio. Coming up next, we'll hear from Jared Halpern from Fox News Radio, plus your thoughts on climate change. Does the impact that Hurricane Dorian, well, really the damage that Hurricane Dorian has done, impact your views on climate change? We'll talk about that and hear what the libs have to say with Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Maggie. We try to do a show day in and day out, and usually it's Jeff the Soup, but now we've got the Tiger in here who makes sure the website is good to go. And, I try to focus on one thing, and that is you. So, Tiger, you mind if we have this conversation after 9? Does that work for you, Tiger? All right, thank you very much. Daniel Tiger, our digital managing editor of the KIDO Talk Radio website and all the other wonderful, wonderful websites here at Town Square Media Boise. You ever read something and you just think to yourself, man, this is a blank way to go. And the only way that I can describe this is there's been a woman who was pecked to death. Now, I know some people will say, Kevin Miller, you're going to probably have too many cheeseburgers, pizzas, fried chicken, that sort of thing. That's something that I deal with. But there is a rooster that killed a woman. An autopsy has confirmed an elderly Australian woman was pecked to death by a rooster. NBC News reports the 76-year-old had been collecting eggs when the bird went after her varicose veins. Eesh. The woman also had other contributing factors, diabetes, hypertension. Now, the official cause of death was from bleeding from those veins. The medical examiner concluding the rooster caused the woman's varicose veins to perforate. The findings have been published in the Journal of Forensic Science, Medicine, and Pathology to show that even small, non-threatening animals can cause deadly wounds. Stay away from the roosters. Farmers in Idaho, farmers in the Treasure Valley will tell you that. Jared Halpern joining us now. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. Jared, of course, live from Capitol Hill, Fox News Radio. Jared, good morning.
Good morning.
You know, I've been waiting to talk to you for quite some time.
All right.
And you're going, boy, this goofy guy in Idaho, what does he want? And this is how much of a fanboy I am when it comes to the presidential primary season. What was it like? We listened day in and day out to your reports seemingly a month ago, not that far, but it seems like it, from the Iowa State Fair. What was that like with all the Dems running around, eating the fried Snickers bars and talking politics?
Yeah, it wasn't just them eating all that fried food. I had to work out when I got home. I had been to the state fair before, and I'd been to the state fair during election season. But especially that Saturday that I was there, where they had 10 different candidates, that was something else. I would talk to some of the organizers who put on the soapbox, as it's called, put on by the Des Moines Register, the newspaper up there. And I talked to one of the organizers and said, "Is 10 the most you've ever had?" And they said they haven't really kept official records, but in anybody's memory, it's the most they'd ever had. So, I mean, it was pretty nuts because, it's right there on the main drag, the midway there, the fair. And so basically every entrance and exit walks right past it. And so you get a pretty good crowd. A lot of folks obviously are there to see a candidate they want to see, but a lot of it's just curiosity. I'm always amazed when I go to New Hampshire, when I go to Iowa, how engaged voters are. You would think like, a little early, we're tired of these folks coming through, and you really don't get that sense. People really are excited to hear from candidates, to sort of, I think they understand the role that they play being a first state, the importance of that sort of make or break for so many of these candidates, so many of these campaigns. And that was certainly the sense I got talking to folks both at the fair and then outside of the fair as well.
Well, one more question about the fair, but first a statement. What I always remember about the Iowa State Fair, watching C-SPAN, was when Mitt Romney was there. I think Romney Presidential Run 2, when he was going back and forth with people, telling people that corporations are people, and it was a real give and take there. Is it like that all the time, or was Romney the exception?
It is. No, because they walk around. So, I mean, the candidates are sort of expected not just to speak. They're expected to go to the vendors, get the pork chop on a stick, get whatever else food. And so when you do that, you're with fairgoers. I mean, it's not as if they cordon off areas and sort of just let campaigns walk through. I mean, you're engaged with people, and that's really what Iowa's about. It's retail politics. It's shaking hands. Some of the candidates flip a pork chop. Others, go to whatever food they're interested in, and that's where they really interact with caucus goers and voters. I did an interview. He's now out of the race, but John Hickenlooper spent his last weekend as a candidate at the Iowa State Fair, and he, he's a beer guy. He is a founder of Wynkoop Brewery in Denver, and so he went over to the craft beer tent, which is actually multiple tents. It's a lot of craft beer. And he poured beer for like half an hour, just pulling on the taps for folks. And so we did a quick interview there. And, I think that's a really comfortable place for a lot of these candidates, is sort of away from, the stump speech and really, it's a good test too. How are you with people? And I had not seen a lot of the candidates in that environment. I had seen most of the candidates sort of, on the debate stage or giving their traditional stump speeches, maybe a quick rope line. I had not gotten an opportunity to see a lot of the candidates sort of just walking around, interacting with folks. And so that was eye-opening for me as a reporter, just sort of to get a sense of, okay, this is how they are. These are the questions they're getting asked. This is how they answer maybe sometimes difficult questions. It's always fun to see. Sometimes it's fun to watch their staff as those interactions are going place too, as they sort of anxiously, oh my gosh, what's, sort of the unscripted moments are sort of the most fun to watch for somebody like me.
No, and we really enjoyed your reports. Like I said, I've been waiting that long to speak with you. In fact, you'll love this one. We were talking to John Decker that day, and I said, aren't you envious of Jared? He goes, well, I just talked to the president. I go, well, you're right about that, John. I stand corrected. But
the state fair is, you got to walk through that midway, though, to be president. So, I get it's comfortable at the White House. John's got a good gig, but I really enjoy, especially with Congress out. It's great to get out at the Iowa, the state fair. I have a good time there. I ate the food. I tried out, what was the new thing this year? It was a deep fried cherry pie on a stick, although the stick's really not, the stick's sort of there.
Right.
That stick's not going to hold that food together. The bacon ball was really good. It's like 7 strips of bacon wrapped around cheese, dipped in barbecue sauce, also served on a stick that's not really pulling its weight. The pork chop on a stick you always have to get. That's kind of like the staple there. Really good milkshakes and ice cream from, the dairy farmers. So, listen, if you want to just eat, that's where you go. There's concerts every night. The band Slipknot, which is a heavy metal band, they played at the Iowa State Fair that first weekend. It was a big deal because I guess they'd never played the state fair before, and they're from Des Moines. I didn't know that. And so I think that was on Saturday. So you had all the campaigns, all of the political reporters, and then a bunch of Slipknot heavy metal fans, and everybody's just sort of commingling. It's a good slice of life.
Jared Halpern joining us from Capitol Hill. Kevin Miller in the morning, KIDO Talk Radio. We could go on, but Jared, quickly, your thoughts on another congressional Republican, this time from Texas, retiring.
Well, you say this one from Texas. This is now the 5th Texas Republican to not run in 2020. And I think it says a couple of things. One, Texas, while I don't think it's like in the purple category for a presidential race, Democrats are making inroads in that state. They are winning support in sort of the suburban districts. They have high hopes in Texas with flipping an additional couple of House seats. I think the most competitive one's obviously going to be Will Hurd, who was the first Texas Republican to announce he wasn't going to run again, only in his second term, from a really swingy border district that basically runs the Texas-Mexico border between San Antonio and El Paso. Viewed a bit of as a moderate, an African-American, the only African-American in the House Republican Conference, former CIA analyst, a lot of sort of viewed as an up-and-comer in the Republican Party. So for him to walk away, I think sends a bit of a troublesome sign for Republicans. The other thing I would say about this is you're always going to see the party out of power with more retirements, I think, than the party in power, because the House, way more so than the Senate, is entirely majoritarian. It is really a pretty miserable lifestyle to be in the minority in the House of Representatives. You're really working entirely at the direction of the majority, the Democrats. And for some of these guys, like Bill Flores, who announced his retirement yesterday, he was elected in 2010. He came in with that Tea Party surge, has spent most of his congressional career in the majority. When you then spend part of your time as a member of the minority, it's a much different experience, I think, for a lot of these guys. And then you weigh in the travel, you weigh in the fundraising, you weigh in being away from your family. I know Flores talked about being a grandfather, which is something he wasn't when he was first elected. And all of that's got to weigh into the decision-making. So I would say two things. One, I think there is a bit of a worry about the competitiveness of some of these races. And beyond that, just being in the minority in the House of Representatives is a far different existence than being in the majority in the House of Representatives.
Jared, we can't wait to have another adventure and another insight of Jared on the road. We appreciate you, brother.
We'll do it soon. Take care.
Thank you. Jared Halpern reporting on KIDO Talk Radio. Pro-Life joins us now. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. Hello, Pro-Life. It's been a while.
Yeah, it has. I guess it was the lady from over there, south of Caldwell. She was talking about red flag laws and the Bundys.
Holly,
yeah. Well,
we were
anyway,
talking earlier in the week that Ammon Bundy could not get a weapon, an AR-15, and then magically he goes public, and now he can get an AR-15.
Well, I think he still can't. But he lives a little ways from me, and I have friends, and we talk once in a while. But I think
you are our biggest booker outside of Ray Amaya, because you've gotten Ammon on, you've gotten former Governor Otter on. I mean, when we need the big names, we say, hey, pro-life, can you make it happen? And 9 times out of 10, you do.
Well, hey, I think you should have Ammon on, because I think that they said he could, and then they went back on him and said now he can't.
Well, the last time I heard was he could, but you're quicker with the news than I am. Look, yep, you're right. We need to get him back on, and if you want to,
I'll call him
and say, hey, and set that up, we'd be more than happy to have him on.
All right. Well, anyway, red flag laws and gun restrictions are going to bring about a crisis in the United States, because what will happen is if the federal government ever comes to start taking guns away from people in the middle of the country, they're not going to take it. They will rebel. And then they'll use, states' rights, 10th Amendment kind of arguments. But they just won't go for it. And then the politicians in the middle part of the country, they won't get elected unless they are Second Amendment people. And like, say, the governor of Idaho, he'll always say, well, we'll let the Supreme Court decide this. But
you're not a fan of the Supreme Court.
No, I'm not a fan of judges making law. That's not their responsibility. That's not their constitutional jurisdiction. And we have to get away from judges making the final decision. It's up to the legislatures and the Congress. They don't want to do it because it makes them unpopular.
Look, the Idaho legislature, whatever the governor wants, they do. Remember, we've talked about repealing the grocery tax. We've talked about protecting homeowners. And what do they always say? Well, Kevin Miller, the governor says, and I go, well, I didn't know the governor was the boss of you. And they go, well, the governor wants it this way, regardless of who the governor is. This has been going on for years.
Yeah, and what they ought to do is say, no, if we don't want if the governor is going to veto our legislation, we're going to override that. I mean, we have 80% of the legislature is Republican. So if the Republican governor is not going to go along with the 80% of the legislature, they just override his veto.
I don't know if the legislature would even do that. I think they're afraid of the governor.
Yeah, they probably are. The Republicans are wimps. They always have been.
Are you afraid of the governor?
No, I'm not afraid at all. I live in the same county, and I'm not afraid of him. I talk to him. And
I remember when you and the former governor had a big showdown here.
Yeah.
You used to call him a wimp on the radio, and I said, why don't you say it to his face? And you did.
Right. Well, he's still a big wimp.
I thought he was going to put you in a headlock.
Well, he probably could.
He could.
I mean, I'm older than he is. I'm weak, but he could probably put me in a headlock. But
that guy doesn't matter age with that guy. He's like superhero.
Yeah, he's a steer wrestler. But anyway,
he is a steer wrestler.
Republicans are wimps, and politically and
now a lot of people that listen to this program are going, man, does pro-life have any new material? It's always Republicans are wimps.
No, there's plenty of new material, and the new material should be.
Well, we're getting
ready. America's going to have to wake up and follow God, because there's a great judgment after all this is over.
Sure.
You just can't be a selfish wimp, on earth here and think you're going to go somewhere in the next life.
And today's positive moment brought to you by Pro-Life. Thank you.
All right. God bless you.
God bless you, brother. Take care.
All right.
Bye-bye. Whew. He's the nicest person that you'll ever meet, but he sure can stir it up. Coming up next, would you voluntarily spend the night in prison? Would you voluntarily shoot a video of what it's like in the jail? One big reporter has done it. We'll get your thoughts on that. And before Glenn Beck, we'll talk a little prison safety here in the Gem State. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. That's a good point. Since pro-life is a farmer, I should have asked him about that woman who was pecked to death by the rooster. Oh, we're back. Kevin Miller in the morning, KIDO Talk Radio. We've talked a little bit about Independence Indoor Shooting. It is conveniently located in beautiful Meridian, Idaho, just off Overland Road. You're going, Kevin, I could drive up and down Overland Road forever. It's right behind the new Gem Prep Meridian. And you can tell where Independence Indoor Shooting is because we'll be there tomorrow. Come in from 6 to 9, have a good time, fire some weapons, buy some ammunition, check out the facility, talk to the staff, learn about all the hunting and guiding regulations here in the Gem State, and more importantly, learn about self-defense, learn about the requirements for the enhanced concealed carry permit, learn about, how you can keep yourself, your family safe, and all the great, wonderful weapons that they have. Independence Indoor Shooting, they love people that want to protect themselves. They love people that love the Second Amendment. You're going to be welcomed. It's a family there. Whether it's the independent women, whether it's the shooting clubs, whether you want or not you want to have your birthday party there, whether or not you want to have a meeting for some type of community event there. They have wonderful, wonderful workshops. Whether it's unarmed self-defense or anything, you will love it at Independence Indoor Shooting. The longest indoor shooting range in the Northwest, 576 Guns. 576 Guns. Who wants to go get all sweaty? Clean, climate-controlled ranges designed perfectly for you, your friends, your family members, complete with safety officers there for your protection. Independence Indoor Shooting, iishooting.com, 576 Guns. See you tomorrow morning with me, Kevin Miller. Rolling on the right side, and don't forget the KIDO Talk Radio app. You ever been asked to do anything difficult with your job? Don't you hate that? I mean, sometimes, and look, if you work with a real world and the real job, you do difficult things each and every day. But some of us in the pampered industries that we live in, sometimes we act like little kids. I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about me. We go, oh, come on. Or you pout because you have to do extra work. It's always great when you say, you need to do extra work. They're the one actually having to do extra work. And sometimes a lot of it is non-compensated. But would you do this? Those of you that still watch television and watch the network news, there's David Murr, who's the number one guy. There's the CBS show with Nora O'Donnell that's failing miserably. And then there's NBC's Lester Holt, right? Maybe you watch Channel 7 and then you'll see Mark Johnson going, and Lester Holt has the latest, right? So coming up Friday night, Lester Holt recently went to jail. No, Lester Holt didn't do anything wrong, but Holt decided to spend 2 nights in the Louisiana State Penitentiary for a Dateline segment, right? Now, why is he doing this? He's going to report on the criminal justice system. Now, by the way, you might have heard of this prison. It's called Angola. You ever seen those documentaries on Angola? Now, at first, Holt was hesitant, saying, it's dangerous. This is one of the most notorious prisons of the world, and you want me to lock me up in there? What about my safety? Now, again, I had a friend of mine who wanted to do this as a talk show host, and the folks couldn't guarantee his safety. Now, we've done the morning show from the Canyon County Jail. We've done the program from other places across the country from jail, but you're talking prison. So we'll see what happens with Lester Holt. But would you do that? And when you think about the prisons, the problems with that here in Idaho, what is the biggest problem when it comes to the federal and state prison systems across the country? Think about that for a minute. Our time, 8:58. You're listening to Kevin Miller in the Morning, KIDO Talk Radio. Traffic and weather together. Let's get you to work safely and on time. Good morning, Dave. Coming up, we're going to be at Independence Indoor Shooting tomorrow, but I want to leave you with this one right before Glenn Beck. This is a tweet from Charlie Kirk. Elizabeth Warren says it's obscene to profit off students. Really? The cost of one Warren-authored textbook, $258.97. The cost of one Warren co-authored textbook, $126.78. Her salary for a year, $430,000 when she was a professor. God bless everyone. Keep the faith. Glenn Beck is next.